Okay, everybody, we are just a few minutes after the hour. Let's go ahead and get going. Thank you so much for joining today, the Association Tech Expert Series hosted by Fonteva and ProTech. We are so glad you're here. And we are thrilled to welcome Aplusify, who will be bringing you today's topic, calculating the cost benefit of integrating with an AMS. And I am thrilled to introduce, if you'll join me, our speaker today is Neeraj Garg. Neeraj is the COO of Aplusify. There he is. Hello. Oh, I think you might be muted. Maybe. Let's see.
Oh yes, sorry, I was muted.
That's okay. We all do it, and that's kind of our new lingo these days, right? Working remotely. So, yeah. Well, Neeraj is the COO of Aplusify and our in-house expert, if you will. And I'm so sorry, I just lost my screen to see you. There you are. And let me just do a little introduction for him. For 20 years, he has worked alongside a multi-talented team to help associations and nonprofits drive digital transformation within their organization, enabling them to be more innovative, agile, and donor member-centric. As Aplusify COO, he leads an internal task force that shares lessons learned, best practices, and practical applications that specifically relate to associations and nonprofits. With 200 plus developers, wow, by his side, Neeraj provides clients with the resources and capacity to power up their team. So the right man for the job is in the room. We're so happy that you're here. Before we get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping items to go over. I will be brief, but if you will, please note that everyone is muted just because of the number of folks we have on today, but that doesn't mean that you can't participate. We encourage participation. At any time, you'll see the control panel there. Please submit your questions. I'll be monitoring that. We've also got Jay Daughtery, who I know a lot of you guys know from the industry. He's working behind the scenes, monitoring your questions as well. So please keep them coming. We do have a designated Q&A at the end of the webinar. If you have any trouble with audio, I sound like one of those IT guys, but replug, rejoin, refresh, and see if that doesn't help. And then again, this webinar is being recorded. So if you are interrupted by dogs or kids or anything, I know we're all working remote. I'm coming at you live from Texas. Neeraj is actually in India. Jay's in the DC area, and we're thrilled to have so many of you from around the globe. This webinar is also eligible for 1 CAE credit. So if those apply to you, please admit those. And what kind of marketing director would I be if I didn't do a quick shameless plug? So the Association Tech Expert Series is brought to you by ProTech and Fonteva. And as many of you may know, late last year, 2021, Fonteva's parent company, TogetherWork, also acquired ProTech Associates. So all that, we're unlikely sister companies, but all of that with the goal of bringing a true platform, a true cloud-based solution to associations and nonprofits. And while both companies, we continue to operate independently, it's a great opportunity for our industry. And our goal is, at the end of the day, to bring an unbiased review of association platforms built on top of the 2 enterprise CRM solutions available in the market today, and that is Salesforce and Microsoft. So we also have a new website, one final shameless plug, I promise we'll be done, but associationplatforms.com. We'd encourage you to go there and read more about our platform power and our platform story. So again, thank you so much for being here today. We've got a great crowd, a great topic. And with that, you are not here to listen to me ramble. I will hide myself and mute myself. And Neeraj, take it away.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for the introduction. And again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone who has joined this webinar. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. And today we are going to actually run through on the cost benefit analysis of integrating your different systems with AMS. So we are going to go through different direct benefits, indirect benefits, and then talk about the reasons for integration and the pitfalls you should avoid with any integration. So I think let's get started. So before we actually talk about AMS integration, let's have a quick look at what the typical landscape for associations and nonprofit looks like, right? So if you can see in this diagram, we have got association and nonprofits at the center, and then we have different systems that you all might be using, right? So you might have been using Salesforce CRM, you might be using Fonteva AMS, then you might be using a learning management system, which can be Talent LMS, SAP Litmus. You might be using an event app for your marketing stuff. You might be using a marketing automation tool like Pardot or Marketo. Obviously, there must be an accounting system associated with your association or nonprofit, and that can be QuickBooks. And then there might be some internal legacy systems that you might be using. So there might be other systems as well that might be as a part of the landscape. But based on our experience, this is something that depicts a complete picture of how an association and nonprofit landscape looks like, right? And sometimes these systems are talking to each other. When I say talking to each other, it means data being passed from one system to another and system being integrated with each other. But most of the times these systems are actually silo systems, which are having their own database, own way of communication, and not interacting with the other silo systems. And I think that is the whole beauty of Salesforce and other integration platforms, to integrate all systems so that we can actually see one holistic view of our members who are a part of our associations and nonprofit. Okay, so I think once we have understood this associations and nonprofit landscape, let's move to the benefits that we derive on integration of your AMS with maybe Salesforce, maybe Fonteva's events, or maybe other internal legacy systems. So when we talk about benefits, there are two broader categories into which we can define our integration. Okay, so there are some direct benefits and then there are indirect benefits. So obviously, as the name suggests, right, direct benefits are something that directly impacts your cost, right? So you can directly calculate the dollar factor based on your cost savings, which may be related to maintaining your APIs or building your APIs, and maybe reduction in the total deployment or the running cost of your system. Okay, so we will in the next few slides see how you can actually calculate the direct benefits of integration for your AMS. And then there are indirect benefits as well, right? Indirect benefits are broader business objectives, right, which are not directly related to cost, but which are more related to your improved member experience, right, or maybe enhancing operational efficiency. So they directly don't impact the cost, but if you indirectly talk about cost, they impact the cost in a certain fashion, right? Because even if you enhance your operational efficiencies and save cost on operations, that is actually adding to your cost, okay, and reducing your cost. But in subsequent slides, we will see like how indirect benefits also help you in the longer run. Okay, so let's talk about the direct benefits first. So how many of the times we are actually confused on how to determine the direct benefits of AMS integration, right? Because many times we need to present to our senior management on the benefits of API integration, and that is where they ask about how it impacts cost, right? So we have taken an example. Okay, so first thing that you need to determine the direct impact of cost on AMS integration is determine the input parameters that which actually impact your maintenance cost. Okay, so in this case we have taken 4 parameters. Now first would be number of APIs to maintain per project. Okay, because the beauty of APIs is that they can be reused, right? They can be recycled. So suppose you have got one of your systems integrated, maybe an accounting system with your AMS, right? And then you want to integrate the same accounting system for other projects. Okay, so you don't have to actually rebuild the entire stuff. It is some percentage of the code that can be reused. Now that percentage can vary from maybe 20% to 30% to maybe until 90%. Okay, so we have taken 4 parameters. First is number of APIs that you are currently maintaining per project. Okay, and as I said, the beauty of APIs is to actually reuse them. So the second parameter we have taken is expected reuse rate per project. Okay, so now that reuse rate can be determined. Maybe you can say we are able to use 40%, maybe we are able to use 30% of the work that you have already done. So that depends upon you. Then once we have taken these 2 parameters, we actually have to determine a dollar value to this input 2 parameters that we have taken. So we have to take into factor the amount of time that we are actually spending in maintaining one API. We may be spending maybe 200 hours or 300 hours per year on maintaining one API. Okay, and if we start reusing it, it will actually save time, right? And time is money, as we know. Okay, because these APIs to be maintained needs resources. So obviously the 4th parameter would be the full-time resource cost that you are incurring for maintaining one API. Okay, so take the input parameters which are actually helping you in reducing the maintenance cost per project. Now the second step would be to lay out a formula, because you've got the input parameters. Now you need to calculate a value, and to calculate a value you need to actually build up a formula to calculate the reduction in cost. Okay, so these are the 4 parameters. Now what we have done is in the first slide on the left hand side, you can see this is the calculation of reduction in APIs due to reuse, right? So that would come, so if you are maybe using 50 APIs to maintain, there are 50 APIs that you are maintaining or your team is maintaining per project, and you are able to use 40% of it, right? Which means that you are reducing it by 40%. Okay, so 50 into 40% would be 20, right? We will come to the input values later in the slide, but this is how you calculate the reduction in APIs due to reuse, right? Number of APIs to maintain per project multiplied by the expected reuse rate. Now this expected reuse rate can vary somewhere from 30 to 90%, okay, depending on how those APIs can be reused. And this reduction in APIs would actually help you in reduction the dollar value, because you will save time. So that would be multiplied by time to maintain one API, and then multiplied by the resource cost that you are saving per hour to reuse those APIs. So we have got the input parameters. Now we have got a formula to calculate those value or the benefit. And then what we do is put input values to it based on our analysis. Okay, so let's say that we have got 50 APIs to maintain per project, and our reuse rate is 40%. Okay, so this 40% of 50 comes out to be 20. So you are actually reusing 20 APIs, which means there are 20 fewer APIs to maintain for you per project per year. All right. So because of the reusability rate, instead of maintaining 50 APIs, right, you will have to maintain 30, reduction in 20. Okay. Now let's come to the dollar value of reduction. So suppose it takes you 20 hours to maintain one API per year. Okay, and it costs you $100 per hour for a resource to maintain it, right? So that comes out to be 20 into 100, $2,000. Okay, and that multiplied by the fewer APIs to maintain 20 comes out to be $40,000, right? So if you are maintaining 50 APIs per project and your reuse rate is 40%, and there are 20 hours that you are consuming per API per year with a resource cost of $100 per hour, you are going to save $40,000 annually reusing APIs, and that is per project, right? Okay, so for one project, if the reuse rate is 40%, you are saving $40,000 per project, and that is direct benefit to the cost. Okay, now if we talk about the cumulative value, right, because that was $40,000 was per year reduction in cost for one project. Okay, now let's suppose that you are actually have 10 projects that you are maintaining in a year, and since you are getting a benefit of $40,000 per project, right? So 40,000 into 10, that comes out to be $400,000, right? If you are maintaining 10 projects in a year, right? So the annual reduction in cost comes out to be $400,000. And if you do a cumulative reduction in cost over 3 years, because we are maintaining 10 projects per year, so the second year, the cumulative number of projects would be 20. That multiplied by 40,000 would be $800,000. Similarly, third year, adding 10 to it, it would be 30. And then the maintenance benefit, it is 40,000, so it will come out to be $1,20,000. Okay, and if we get a cumulative value, that would be $240,000 for you as a cumulative reduction over the 3 years if you are maintaining 10 projects per year and reusing the APIs, which has a reuse rate of 40%. Now this value can vary depending on your input parameters. Okay, so that is how you can actually calculate the direct benefit of cost for integrating with APIs and present a business case to your management to pursue it further, right? Because everyone believes in figures, and this would actually help you maybe get quick approval of your integration work, and maybe directly show the impact of cost. So this is one way of calculating the direct impact. There are other ways also which are there, but this is one of the simplest way to actually see how much maintenance cost you can actually save for your projects in a year by integrating APIs. Now let's talk about the indirect value of integration. Okay, so let's take a case of LMS integration. Okay, so you have got an AMS system, which might be Fonteva. You have got an LMS system, which can be any LMS system that you have integrated with. So now there is a Salesforce in between through which the data is syncing between these two systems. So what are the indirect benefits that you get? You get single sign-on, which actually means that users don't have to sign in into both systems separately. They sign in any of the two systems, either AMS or LMS, and they get logged into any of the two systems, okay, without entering multiple user IDs and passwords for each of the silo systems. And I think that is a huge benefit that adds a lot of value to your user experience, saves users a lot of time, and gives that value of your system to them. And obviously, since these two systems are integrated, data is flowing between those two systems through batch jobs, through scheduled jobs. So your staff does not have to copy the data from LMS to AMS and then AMS to LMS, right? Which would be a huge saving on your manual work or your operational cost, which would actually reduce dollar value, right? So it would add indirectly to the dollar value reduction. Then obviously, when you have got two systems, you can exactly know what the users like, what courses are popular, what kind of LMS users do you have, what do they actually want, so you can have on-demand content for them. You can maybe cross-sell things across these two, right, depending on what the users are interested in. Then you can have auto course enrollment, right? Because you have got those two systems integrated. You can have dashboards and analytics to see what is working, what is not working, and to set up your marketing parameters based on the data that you have collected. So when you have one single source of truth, right, there can be many more marketing options that get open when you integrate two systems. Okay, so this is basically indirect benefits, where you can actually personalize courses for different users based on their behavior, right? And that can only be done if there is one single source of truth. So we can take another example. Suppose you have got community integration done with your AMS. So let's take an example, which is a very common example. Every association and nonprofits enters a renewal season, which is the main source of revenue. Okay, so let's take an example of one of a loyal member, Alexis. Now, Alexis, a loyal association member, has lapsed her dues payment. Okay, so she has not been able to pay the dues. Okay, but since you have a single source of truth, you have done your AMS integration with the community, right? So your integration tells you that because you are watching her behavior, you are watching her, you are tracking her history, you are able to determine that she's currently unemployed and searching for a job. Since she's unemployed and searching for a job, obviously you get the reason that she has lapsed her dues. Now, since she has been a loyal member, now your approach suddenly changes, right? Instead of just sending her reminders for renewal payments, what you do is you give her a 3-month grace period instead of a standard renewal notice. Okay. Since she's active in your community, you are able to find a job for her because you know she's unemployed. You send her job postings which are interested based on her skills. She finds a job, and then obviously she pays her dues, and that is where you actually get a lifetime loyalty from Alexis, because instead of just sending notices to her, you have shown her empathy and helped her out in searching for a new job, and now obviously she loves that. Okay, so that is obviously, this would actually help in inspiring future members as well. Maybe she would have similar experience shared with other members of your community, and obviously and this would actually help in better member engagement. Okay, so though it is not a direct benefit, but it is actually an indirect benefit where you are able to retain your members and inspire them to be lifetime members. Similarly, you can have your association tool integrated with the analytics tool like Acumen. Okay, so what Acumen will do is it will actually let you know and give you a dashboard like this, which is more of a membership overview dashboard. And you can see that you have got current memberships here. You know how many new members have added this year, how many current members are in grace, how many members dropped this year, what is the current renewal rate for you. Okay, and based on your renewal rate, your members who are in grace or members who have dropped out, you can define a strategy, right? You can see why the members have dropped out, what you could have done better as a marketing personnel to actually retain them, right? And what is something that is actually helping getting you new members. So all this data is very important if you want to have an insight into how your members are feeling about the system, what is something that they like, what is something that they don't like, right? And these figures will actually create an impact on your overall strategy to move your organization forward. So obviously this will help you in enriching member experience. You can have a member engagement platform like HireLogic integrated, which will actually give you a 360-degree view of your members. So your marketing department can benefit from it. So let's take an example. your marketing department automates and sends emails. Okay. Now, one of your prospects, Matt, receives that emails and opens the association website. Okay. But since you have got an engagement platform integrated with your AMS, everything is getting recorded, right? So you know that Matt has actually opened your association website and seems interested. Now he navigates to the community. Since he navigates to the community, your networking, he starts interacting with your members, right? Now, networking leads to increased engagement with other members. And since all this data is being captured, they will exactly know what all things Matt is doing, how he approached your website, what materials is he searching on website, what webinars or events is he attending. And all this data can be passed on to the sales team, right? And since sales team has a background of how the prospect came from start till end, it would be very convenient for them to close that deal, right? Because they don't have to talk to the marketing team. They have everything in place. And I think it will take them a couple of calls to close that deal. So it's increasing your revenue by giving you a 360-degree view of members. So not a direct benefit, but an indirect benefit that you get out of it. So we have talked about the benefits of API integration, both direct and indirect benefits. But the most important question that comes in our mind is, how do we determine if we should go for integration? What are the factors or what are the questions that we should ask if we want to integrate? Okay. Now, this is a list of 6 or 5 very important questions that you can ask yourself and determine if integration is the right way for going ahead or not, right? Now, the first and the foremost question that you should ask is, are you wasting a chunk of your time in syncing data between AMS and the different silo systems that are there within your org? Okay, so if you say that, oh, no, we are not doing any data transfer, silo systems are not talking to each other, we don't have to sync any data, then you don't need an integration, right? Because you don't want the systems to talk to each other. But if you see that you have got a lot of, you're spending maybe 4 hours, 5 hours daily, or maybe certain hours a month just syncing data, and that manual sync obviously will have issues, then I think you should actually go for integration, right? So the first question to ask is, are you wasting a lot of time in syncing data between 2 systems? Okay, once you have asked that question and you say that, yeah, we want to go for integration because we are wasting a lot of time on integration and syncing data between 2 apps. So the second question you should ask is that, suppose you are integrating maybe Fonteva, your AMS, with association analytics or maybe Acumen, right? So does Fonteva or your AMS system has an API that connects with the other app, or if you're integrating with Salesforce, maybe connect with Salesforce? If the answer is yes, there's an API available, right? Then that integration is easy. But if your answer is no, that there is no connector that is there between your AMS and the third-party system that you're trying to integrate, I think then you should rethink about integration, because then it would be a cumbersome process, a long process, and will cause a lot of issues. So if your answer is yes, we have got a ready-made API that connects, you should tick that box and go to the next step, right? Now you have decided that we have got an API, we are going for integration. Now who will integrate, right? So because integration requires a specific skill set to actually move or integrate 2 systems. So you should see that, are you actually equipped with the technical skills to perform a seamless integration? Okay, or does your team have that skills? If it is yes, then go for it. But if the answer is no, maybe then you should actually look for experts from outside your association to work and see if they can get the work done, right? Never get the work done by someone who has not done it before. Okay, otherwise your integration will be a complete mess. Okay, then you've got the technical skills, you've got the APIs. Now, another question you should ask is, do we want to get some analytics out of the two systems? Is there something that we can get as a report or dashboard which will actually help us to make our systems better, or maybe improve our processes, or maybe improve our operational efficiencies? If yes, then obviously you should go for integration. And last not the least, I think most of the people don't realize that this is a very important question to be asked. Do you want to use the same technology for the next 3 to 5 years? Right now, maybe you are using an AMS, you are using Fonteva, you decide that in the next 1 year you will get rid of it. Okay, so then there is no point in wasting time on integration, because nevertheless you are not going to use that system for the next 3 to 5 years. If the answer is no to this question, it should be, the integration should be a full stop. You should never go ahead for integration. But if you think you can actually stick with the same technology for the next 5 years at least, then you should think about integration, because integration is a process which is not a few hours process, not a few days process. It takes its own sweet time, maybe a couple of months, 3 months, depending on the size of integration that you are doing. So I think it's very important to ask these 5 questions before you actually decide on moving ahead with the integration. Now, just to sum up on what we have discussed in the previous slides, why integrate, right? So obviously, first and foremost is you get one access and you get a single sign-on. Your members don't have to switch systems between different systems to do their tasks, which is a big relief for them, right? Obviously, since you are syncing two systems, you are automating systems, obviously it would enhance productivity, because manual job is over. You will have more precise data, you will have more efficient processes, and that's going to enhance your productivity. Similarly, since you will have got a single source of truth, you can build different dashboards, run analytics, maybe Salesforce analytics on it, and determine different KPIs that you can actually use to determine your future sales strategies, marketing strategies, maybe member engagement strategies, whatever you want to call it. So that will actually help you in future growth of your org. Then obviously, since you are tracking the users, you are collecting their member data, you can give a personalized feeling to them. You will know how they feel, like in the case of Alexis, right, where she lost her job, and we were able to provide a relief to her and then help her out. This is something that you can only do if you know your members, right? So knowing your members is very important, and that can only be done if you've got data in place. And obviously, since you have got members, you have got social communities, it's a great way for members to socialize, right? They can interact within different systems, they can see what is bad, what is good, and so you will have a single source of truth for everyone. So I think this is all that sums up the direct benefits, indirect benefits of API integration. There can be many more benefits, but I think these are some of the major ones that you need to keep in mind. And you also need to keep in mind on why you should integrate and what are the steps that you should actually tick to say that you are actually good for integration, or you just don't want to go with it. Okay, so I think I pass it on to Aaron then. And
yes, awesome, Neeraj. Thank you so much. Lots of time savers for sure, and a lot of benefits. We do have a few questions. Also, we have a poll. If you want to launch the poll, or we can skip that. It's completely up to you.
I think we can launch the poll. That's fine. I think it would be better to understand.
Yeah, let me do that quickly. So everybody, if you will, I'm going to just launch this poll. It's a single question. which stage of an AMS integration are you currently in? You've got 4 choices here. Are you planning an integration? Your integration is already in progress. Your integration is complete, but you're struggling maybe post-launch, or you haven't even thought about an integration. So if you guys could all take a minute and vote, that might help Neeraj with his talking points at the end. Awesome, I see them coming in. Thank you. Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Still got a few stragglers. We'll give it just a couple more minutes. We're doing great on time, so thank you. Okay, I'm gonna close it. It looks like, let me share these results, but about 55% of you are planning an integration, 18% are midway or are in progress, another 18% are complete but you're struggling post-launch, and then about 9% have maybe joined today to learn more about that, have not thought about an integration yet. So awesome. We do have a couple of questions that have come through, and again, we've got time. If you were sitting on a question, please be sure and do it now. This one came in: is it mandatory or advisable to calculate both the direct and indirect benefits of integrations before you make your go, no-go decision? What do you think about that?
I think that's a very good question. And obviously, it is not mandatory to have a direct and indirect benefit of integration. So it can be that your indirect benefits of integration may be overweigh your direct benefits of integration, because as we discussed in the slides, right, the business broader objectives, which includes your member experience, member engagement, operational efficiencies, I think they directly in some way add a lot of cost reduction in terms of everything that you're doing in terms of integration. And I think the most important part of integration is that there is a single source of truth that you get after integrating systems. Okay, so I will take an example. We all have banking accounts with banks. Okay, and now a bank has different divisions. It has a credit card division, it has a mortgage division, and then there is a savings account, retail banking, and everything. Okay, so let's take an example that you hold a banking account with Bank of America. Okay, and you are also a mortgage customer with them, and you hold a credit card with them as well. But since these credit card system, the banking system, and mortgage systems are silo systems and are not talking to each other, so when a credit customer executive might be seeing your record, he might not know that you are already having a banking account with the bank, right, as well as the credit card. Okay, so he may call you and say that, hey, you are having a credit card running with us. Do you want to open a savings account with us as well? Right, which would be actually irritating for you, because you know that you already have an account with them and you have been a loyal customer with the bank. Okay, but if you would have got these systems integrated, the executive might have called you and said that you are a loyal customer with us, you hold a mortgage account with us, you hold a savings account with us, you have a credit card with us, right? Why not just increase your credit card limit, right? So he can actually cross-sell products rather than actually selling you a product which you already have. So I think same lies with the AMS system as well, where you have got an LMS, you have got AMS, right? There are different members who are using LMS, and if you have a single source of truth, you can actually let them know like what else you can actually use for them, or maybe cross-sell them. So it's important to have a cost benefit analysis, but obviously not mandatory to have a direct value as an indirect value, both.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that, and thank you for the question. What about, can you talk a little bit about what are the pitfalls you should avoid during integration?
Okay, I think the greatest pitfall that you should avoid, because when you're integrating two systems, you are actually telling them to talk to each other, right? Which indirectly means that there would be data flowing from one system to another and vice versa, right? So the biggest pitfall that you should avoid is make sure that when you are integrating through systems, you make sure that the data in the source system which you are integrating, right, should be very clean. When I say clean data, it means that there are no missing records in it, right? There are no duplicate records in it, because what will happen is if you have got maybe 100,000 records which are missing date of birth for your members in system one, and you are not cleaning that data before integrating the two systems, that 100,000 records will flow from one system to the target system that you are integrating. So now instead of 100,000 records or bad data, right, you will have 200,000 records of bad data. Okay,
Oh,
and I
yeah,
think that is
big deal.
and I think that is the most common problem that we face with our customers, is that we are pulling a report, but we are not getting the renewal date. We are missing the date of birth. We are missing membership ID, and that is because when they have integrated two systems, they have not followed that required process, right? They have just transported data from one layer to another, without making sure that what data they are transferring is actually bad. So that is the, I think, biggest pitfall you should avoid when you are integrating two systems. And I think for that, you should make sure that whoever is doing that integration, you maybe kind of ask that questions with them, right? Try to dive and understand like whether they are actually following a framework or whether they are actually doing a common sense before integrating two systems.
Okay, awesome. We've got another one. What information needs to be shared between your AMS and your LMS when integrating, and how do you determine this?
So it actually depends upon you what information you want to share between two systems, right? Because when you are integrating two systems, they have different fields, right? So maybe a field in LMS, which can be an LMS ID, would be a membership ID in AMS. Okay, so you need to see that the mapping between two systems is proper. You are mapping the right data so that wrong data is not flown between two systems. So date of birth is passed on to the date of birth field. Okay, your first name should pass on to the first name field, right? It can be first name in AMS, but it can be F name in LMS. Okay, so you have to make sure that data mapping is correct, and you have to make sure that, and one of the things I think that you should take care of is determine whether the data would be flowing one side or it would be a bi-sync integration. Okay, so it can be that your data just flows from Fonteva to LMS or from LMS to Fonteva, depending on which system you have implemented, right? So it may be that you're using an AMS, but you start using an LMS, right? So your LMS does not have any data, but your AMS has data. So it would just be a unidirectional sync. There would be just data flowing from Fonteva to LMS, right? So I think these are the things that you should take care of when you are integrating two systems.
Okay, awesome. I hope that was thorough enough for your question, your response. I guess we maybe just one more from me, but in general, we did the poll. We kind of know where everybody is in their integration stage or their journey. Any final tips or tricks or anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I think most of them in the polls have said that they are in the process of integrating the AMS. That was the result. And I think if you are in the process of integrating, my tip would be that you make sure that you don't do it in a hurry. Okay, define proper steps before integrating two systems. Maybe if you think that you have not got experts who have done that integration before, it's good to stop that work there and then, right? and try to test your systems in parts. Okay, so it may be that you are exporting or transferring 1 million records from one system to another. So rather than moving the entire stuff from one system to another, do it in parts. Okay, maybe just pick 100 records and map it and pass it on to the second system, test it out, and that ways you will know what issues are occurring in the 100 records, right? Or what are the things that are missing, and it's easy to correct them and then fix those changes in your scripts and then do the whole lot stuff, right? Otherwise, if you just do the 1 million records in one go, it would be so tough for you to identify the issues. So do it in parts, test it out, and then roll it out, right? So take baby steps and then roll out the entire picture.
Okay. Okay, awesome. And we did have a few more come in. Can you talk a little, I know we talked about the cost, but could you talk a little like what's a good rule of thumb about how many hours of manual work would benefit from an integration or an automation? And they've got, for example, if we have a staff member who spends 4 hours a week on a given task, approximately 200 hours per year, should we be looking at an integration? What if it was only a few hours a month for another responsibility or whatnot?
I think if you're spending a lot of time on manual activity, we should think of automating it, because
Manual activity.
Yes, because we are thinking of a shorter vision right now, but it may be that he will do more integrations and the work will actually increase, right? So he may be spending just 200 hours for now, but it may be that with time, because what happens is as your members increase in the system, the data in the system also increases, right? So he may be just spending 200 hours or maintaining maybe 1,000 records, but in the next 2 years, when in the next 2 years, if there are 100,000 records, then his time will also take that leap. Okay, so it's good to integrate when you have smaller data, right? It would be easy to test. It would save work for you in the longer run. And obviously, as I pointed out, you should make sure that you're using that system for the next 3 to 5 years. Then only it would make sense.
Okay. Okay. Good data there. Another one, if you could choose just 3 systems for an association to integrate with an AMS, do you have a top 3?
I think if you talk about top 3 systems, I would say most of them would be your learning management system, because that is very, very important with all associations. Second would be your event app if you're using, because you do a lot of marketing events.
Okay.
And important to capture that data and pass it on to your AMS, right? Or maybe pass it on to your CRM, because marketing team and the sales team should work together if you expect faster lead closures.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
yes.
Second would be, my second would be events app or a marketing tool. And third would be, I think if you are using accounting system, right? So maybe go for it, because that would actually help you in a lot of reduction in the errors in your renewals and payments, because then no manual entries, and the direct payments can be directly fetched to the accounting team and they can directly send invoices to them.
Okay, awesome. And then maybe I think we've got time for one more, and this might be a good one to end on. Earlier you talked about the indirect benefits. Could you go into a little more detail about examples of the indirect benefits of an integration?
Sure. So for indirect benefits, I think the most important benefit that you get is member experience or member engagement, because members want to be recognized, right? Members want that the system they are using or the association they are associated with, right, should know about them, right? It should know about what they want. So suppose if you are going to post same stuff to everyone, it does not make sense, right? Someone may be looking for a job, a student who has joined your association, so you must be posting relevant content to him. Retired people have a very limited window of content, right? They don't want to look for jobs, or they might not be interested in other stuff.
More relevant.
Yeah, right. They might be relevant in maybe how the donations that they have given has affected the society, or how they can actually help in more publicity of your association, right? So depending on the type of members you have, indirect benefits can actually help you in better member engagement for all those kind of members, and help you in retaining your members better.
That's a big one. That's huge. Okay, well, awesome. Well, I think that's it. I think we've hit all the questions. I'm just giving it one last look. And if you want, we'd love to hear from you. We've got one more slide that's got my contact information. Of course, Neeraj is our expert, but there's his email too, and his team would love to hear from you. And I did get a couple of notes about the recording, so I can update that. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining, and thank you so much to Neeraj for sharing his expertise on the matter. But please feel free to reach out. We'd love to stay in touch. And with that, we'll let you get back to your day. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.